Good morning, buenos dias, ohayo gozaimasu. I'm gonna do a little bit of live training this morning, but first I'm gonna kind of wait and see who we have on, and then we'll go from there. So if you're watching after the fact, if I post this later and you're not watching live and I end up saving this, then just feel free to move it forward to the place where I actually start doing some stuff. But this is just going to be something that I do kind of while I do my own training and try to provide a little bit of instruction here and there at the same time. So I usually do a little bit of training in the mornings, what I can do. Had a frustrating injury that kind of keeps flaring up, but I'm going to try to avoid aggravating that while still trying to do enough to teach people at the same time. So, little bit of context. Yesterday, we went to a martial arts tournament. It was myself and two of my black belt students who competed. They've both competed before. We're not I wouldn't say we're a competition school. There are martial arts schools where people go to multiple tournaments every year. I was kind of trying to get back into not multiple, but like three. I was trying to do about 3 tournaments a year, shooting for that. Ended up getting an injury that stopped me from doing one tournament, and then this tournament, I didn't get to do all of the events that I wanted to. I wanted to spar. I didn't end up getting to do the point sparring, which, I'm just trying to cultivate that, trying to work on that a little bit, because that's not the sparring format that I kind of came up with, and it's not my forte per se. I do okay in point sparring, and I'm trying to figure it out a little bit. Because I think the benefit, so I know all the criticisms of point sparring, and I agree with a lot of them. It's a game of tag, right? It can be kind of foot fencing, where you're like leading with your front foot, and whoever's more flexible can pick their knee up higher and like stick their leg out there at tricky angles. Like sometimes it can be really hard to get around that. So some of it comes down to the attributes of the participant, which is still important, like if you want to be good at that, maybe stretch a little bit, maybe work on your kicks, right? That's kind of what I do to try to keep up with some of the people who are a little bit better at that stuff. So criticisms, game of tag, kind of foot fencing, the opponent. So a good thing about it is you're facing an opponent, which in a lot of martial arts, if you don't spar at all, that part where you're actually facing an opponent can kind of be helpful in getting your mind ready for interpersonal violence, or someone's coming at you, they're trying to hit you, and so now you're competing with somebody. I think it can be helpful for, a life or death situation, or like a self-defense situation. That's the ultimate competition, right? You're competing for the ability to survive and live to fight another day. So in that sense, it can be helpful to get in front of somebody and compete. That said, you're seeing attacks coming in a completely different look and a completely different distance than what they would be coming in from a self-defense. Like self-defense, someone's coming right at you, boom, or they're coming right in, they're trying to grab you, or they're grabbing you by the neck, grabbing you by the hair and pulling you, so self-defense is, they're not playing with you, they're not hopping around looking for their opening, trying to like throw some fakes. There's none of that. They're coming right at you, and so you have to respond in kind. So in that sense, the point sparring doesn't really help you with the self-defense in that way. Do you get some timing from, okay, somebody's trying to kick me in the head and I move my head back, or they're trying to punch me and I lean offline, I slip that punch, I put my arms in the way, I block the punch, boom, hit him with my own punch. Yes, it does develop that timing. So it's not, I don't think like point sparring is great preparation for self defense, but that's kind of not the point. The point is, if you're doing a striking martial art, you're doing karate or taekwondo or kung fu, you're doing punches, you're doing kicks, and you're doing some blocks. And so, if you want to have a fun, kind of a fun competition format, and let's say you're not trying to be a fighter per se, all right? So if you get in there and you do a fight where it's full contact, you can kind of hit mostly anywhere, people are going to be kicking your legs really hard, including like even if you can take it, even if your legs are so strong and you've got the strong position, getting kicked in the side of the leg and stuff that can cause damage to your knee, and some kicks are maybe going to even be directly to your knee. So there's going to be likely some damage that you're going to take in your joints from some of that stuff. You can get your ribs broke. There's some serious injuries. You're taking on a bigger risk of injury, really. And so while I like that for the purity of, okay, that's a little bit more like, somebody's actually coming at you trying to hit you, it's a little bit more like reality, but it's also the danger to the practitioner, the danger to the participant is elevated. So what point sparring allows you to do is, there's not kicks to the legs. So that knee damage that was potentially there, now that's not happening. If you damage your knees, it's probably because of what you're doing, like your footwork and changing directions quickly. And then so you're not kind of damaging the knees. It takes that out of the equation. And because you're trying to score fast, you're not really trying to put everything into it. Because when you put full power in and you're thinking about knocking somebody out, that's probably not as fast as you could hit. So if you're being strategic, you're trying to get your fast hit, it's going to hit, but it might not be like your full power hit. And usually even there's rules for like controlling the contact. Like, hey, this is not blood sport. So if you are trying to swing for the fences and it looks like you're trying to knock your partner out, then you're going to get disqualified. You're going to get, thank you. You're going to get warned and stuff. So that's where self-defense and the point sparring kind of divulge, but point sparring has that advantage of it's kind of a safe way for you to get to incorporate your skill set a little bit. Thank you. I appreciate it. So in that way, point sparring can have some utility. And as a teacher, I like to give my students, different experiences that they can do in martial arts. So, for example, like we may not be a tournament school. We're more interested in the Budo, the self-development, the personal development, growing as an individual, growing as a person, challenging yourself and just becoming like the best version of yourself. That's what the Budo art is. So that's where you come to the dojo and you develop yourself. You train, you try to make yourself stronger. You find your weak spots and you work on them. And so that's more what we're about. But doing some tournaments can also be a good experience for the students, and some students are going to want that. So if you come to train with me, I'm not going to tell you have to do this tournament. You have to go do point sparring. But if you want to do point sparring, I want to offer that as an opportunity for my students. So it is important to me to gain skill in that area. So I feel like I'm kind of a okay point sparrer at my level right now, which I guess that's good, but I really want to systematize like my thoughts about it so that I can equip students with a strategy. So if they're like, hey, I want to do point sparring, okay, we're 4 months out from this tournament. You want to go do your katas. You're going to go do your kata for karate, and you're going to go do your weapons, your kobudo kata. And so when you go and you do your katas, that's like empty hand kata and weapons kata, that's like 2 katas, all right? And depending on the tournament, some larger tournaments have other events. Like the one we went to had a self-defense event, so you can do the self-defense division, and we actually did that yesterday. So you can see I posted some videos of my self-defense division on this channel. I didn't do it. I was the attacker. I was the crash test dummy. My students beat me up as I tried to attack them. Oh no, yeah, probably not. Like you probably all coming with guns. Yeah, yep, nope, you win, veteran. You and your veteran friends, you win. All right, but thank you for your service. Um, you can go do something with your life. You don't have to be here criticizing my channel. All right, so basically, we did the self-defense division and we did the team forms or the team kata division, which that was kind of fun. So it gave us a couple extra events to do. Even though we didn't do the point sparring yesterday, I still got to do 3 events, and each of my students did 4 events, which is a lot more fun than coming and doing like 2 events. But for the tournaments that have the empty hand, the karate kata, the weapons, the kobudo kata, and the point sparring, I think it's better to do 3 events than 2. So if you're going to that tournament and you're spending your time, like, hey, while we're here, why don't we try doing a little point sparring? Why don't we try working on that a little bit? So that's kind of why I think it's important for me to work on my point sparring a little bit and kind of systematize that so I can prepare my students ahead of time. Like, hey, we're doing this tournament 4 months out. Oh, you want a point spar? This is our strategy, all right? This is how you're going to avoid getting hit. This is how you're going to get in there and get your hit. These are our kind of like our go-to combinations, and then, of course, as they get better, they'll have their own go-to combinations that work for them. But teaching this style of karate, there's things in our style that I know are transferable. So there's some things in our style that, okay, probably don't do this in point sparring. Like a lot of times we stand very squared up to your opponent. That seems to not be the best strategy for point sparring because you get like kicked in the stomach a lot. Whereas blading yourself a little bit, okay, there's certain stances where we angle, we offset a little bit. Those stances might be a little bit better for point sparring. A short stance where you're trying to get in and out, it's hard to get in cover distance forward and backwards really, really fast with like a short stance versus like a longer stance. Sometimes you can just push off that back foot and cover the distance, get in, get out. But then there's places where you're doing like lateral foot movement where, if you're trying to circle your opponent, maybe that's where you switch back to that shorter stance could be useful. So yeah, there's places where we have our hands up like this. I think that's good for fighting. That's good for self-defense. But then there's also places where we have like one hand high and one hand low. And I think that's probably better for like point sparring. So I can guide my students on like, hey, these are the things that are kind of transferable. This is maybe what you want to stay away from. These are some combinations that I find kind of work. This is a strategy that you can try to implement. And then as they go and they get the repetitions, they get the experience, they'll get better and better. And they'll start coming up with their own stuff of like, oh, like that combination has like, it's hitting off the lead hand, but I'm seeing a lot of opportunities where I'm tagging people with the reverse punch. So I'm going to build my game around this reverse punch that I'm really good at. Combative hand to hand, and it goes up in levels. Level 3 alone, you're going to have some problems. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Level 3 sounds pretty serious. And you're still here. All right. Okay, so I guess my goal was to maybe do a little bit of training at the same time, and I've done a lot of talking, so I am going to do a little bit of a kata. So this is a kata that I had kind of worked on to I prepared a kind of a tournament version of the kata. It doesn't change the fundamental things about the kata, but it does. It did add some things that were complementary to the student's attributes and what the student was good at to put the best foot forward for the tournament. So now I'm going to kind of get back to the basic way of doing the kata, and then also the intermediate way of doing the kata. So like our veteran friend in the comments, I guess I can't see for sure. You said me or my veteran. I'm assuming that you're a veteran too. So got a veteran friend in the comments talking about level 3. So our katas, and you're probably not going to like the katas because it's not. I am not singing a song. um, if you're talking about like hand-to-hand combatives, a lot of people struggle to see the direct application. I wish that'd be badass. Chuck Norris's son, it says. I wish. Yeah, I wish he had like adopted me. No. No. I was raised by a really good man, so I wouldn't trade him for Chuck Norris. All right. Uh, it's okay. You can leave. I'm not gonna sing a song. You don't want that anyway. You think you want that, but you don't. You're gonna have buyer's remorse over that. All right. So I'm gonna do a kata. So if you're just thinking about like combatives, you're going to be a little bit. Most people who are thinking about hand to hand, like self defense type stuff, they miss the point of the kata because they only see you practicing it solo and they don't see you practicing it with a partner. But a lot of like all of this stuff is designed to be done with a partner. So it's sequences where you're actually blocking different kinds of attacks that are coming in at you. So it's all geared toward that. But in some of like the Far Eastern martial arts, there's an emphasis on, because you're developing yourself, but also developing like the martial arts, there's an emphasis on building the position of the body and the feel of like where you're supposed to be while you're doing things. So it becomes a lot more technical than just fighting. So you're going to get better at fighting faster if you just put somebody in front of you and fight. But then you're going to miss some of like, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you don't understand about body positioning and angles and where you're structurally more sound. So your progress is eventually going to kind of level off. What has improved besides fighting skills since starting your combative journey? That's a really good question. Besides fighting skill, I would say that the getting to do some of this stuff makes me happy. I find that being able to like express myself physically through movement is something that it just it kind of lights up my brain a little bit, I guess. So it's something that I find fulfilling. I would say I've developed some wisdom. I've made some mistakes, and I've had some successes, and I learned kind of the value of hard work. Like I apply a lot of the things from like martial arts is it's a journey, man, and it comes from doing something consistently. So you got to be really consistent with that. And I find that consistency is one of the real keys to completely unlocking life. So an example I'll give you is, I'm going to get a master's degree in a little over a month here. I'll actually get a master's degree. Oh gosh, we're back. Well, I'm answering this question though about what has improved besides fighting. So I'm going to be getting a master's degree, and I work full time. I have a family. So the way I got my master's degree is I spent like 5.5 years doing a little bit at a time. So when you see my master's degree, don't let it make you assume that I'm just, this academic whiz, or I'm just smarter than everybody, or I'm just way better at balancing life. It's I applied the consistency that I was doing with my martial arts. I applied that to my studies, and over a long period of time, was able to kind of level up in that way. I do the same thing with like Duolingo, where I'm practicing Spanish and a little bit of Japanese. But I'm just really consistent with it. I don't always do a ton of lessons. I don't always make tons of progress, but I'm very consistent. And so over time, my Spanish has gotten a lot better. I've gotten a little bit of improvement in my Japanese too. Okay. Okay. So, got a comment on here we're talking about military combatives. It's saying it's jujitsu mixed with karate and kickboxing and Krav Maga. Level 3 alone is enough to take out anyone in the path. All right. So, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, I will shed a little bit of light on the military combatives and stuff, because so you mentioned Krav Maga. Krav Maga is all of those things. It is, I would say it's like kickboxing and karate mixed with jujitsu. But I guess a little bit of judo, a little bit of wrestling. Like they try to just take the most effect. So Krav Maga kind of is military combatives, actually, but it's not specifically what our military uses. I know it was for a while. The Marine Corps I know is real into using Krav Maga for a while until they developed McMap, and so they have, uh, they just kind of work on some of the most effective stuff, which that is a good approach. However, you're not going to be the best at any of those things. So if you learn a little bit of basic jujitsu and a little bit of basic boxing, you're going to be kind of prepared to handle some situations, but you're not going to be able to beat a jujitsu guy at jujitsu, and you're not going to be able to beat a boxer at boxing. And so it comes down to those things tend to be a little bit shallow. They're broad, but they're shallow. And so the best people who do some of those things, and they're like, oh, I really. Sometimes it's an entry level drug, right? Like it's. Sometimes people join karate, and they're like, I like the structure, I like the discipline, I like working out, I like fitness, I like the kind of the code of, conduct, and how I walk, how I stand, and the formality of it. And they're like, that's going to translate really well to the military. And so karate can be your kind of your entry level. I should stop calling it an entry level drug, but it's like your way of getting, interested in maybe doing military stuff. But at the same time, military people, a lot of times they start with some of that combatives, and they're like, hey, like I'm, really, this is really cool. I love that I'm kind of getting all this information and all these different approaches to fighting, but now I kind of want to go deeper and do something else. So they might find it really useful to get in, like they go to a jujitsu school and they're like, oh my gosh, like, I'm drowning and these people are like strangling me at will. Or they go into like a karate school and they're like, man, these people are like picking me apart and sparring. So I want to learn this. So there's nuance to it. We can't just like be like, hey, like this is good, this is bad. Yeah, that's true. There's no rules when it comes down to it. But all of these things you're talking about, like Okinawan karate, it was a lot like Krav Maga, maybe at its inception. So it wasn't designed to just be you do a bunch of moves in the air. Um, Krav Maga or karate, Okinawan karate was designed like, it was to the point. You intercept the attack, you hit them in somewhere it's going to do the maximum damage, you throw them on the floor, and you finish them off. Like that's the blueprint for Okinawan karate. So that sounds a lot like Krav Maga, right? It's aggressive. It gets right down to the point. But then, you've got when you start teaching karate to a bunch of children and elderly people and disabled people, and you're like, hey, and this is something that is, it goes into the philosophy, because there's good motivations for doing that and there's bad motivations for doing that. On the good motivation side is, if you find that karate, like I said, like karate has made a positive difference in my life, and I've gained some things through it that are not even just the combative applications. Um, because of that, now I want to teach other people. So when I look at somebody who has a disability, I don't want to say, hey, like, you don't get to do this thing that has brought some joy and some meaning to me, even though you're really interested in it. Like, I see that they're interested, and I'm like, hey, I think we can fit this to you so that you can do it, so that you can participate, so you can get some of the benefits of this. And if I see that, hey, this really seems to help kids figure out how to act right, and I see that a lot of kids are not acting right, so I can help parents and I can help kids, I can help kids be motivated and have like a kind of something that they want to do, that they're excited about, but that also is teaching them, hey, you got to act right. And then you've got the parents who, you're giving them that gift of like, hey, we'll help you get your kids on track with their behavior, their focus, feeling confident about themselves. So of course you want to give that. You have that gift, like why not give it to the kids and the parents? Elderly people, like, a lot of times things become less accessible to you. All right. So when I was really young, when I was a little kid, I could watch the gymnastics in the Olympics and think, man, I can be I can be a gymnast. I can do yeah, you're right. Exactly, exactly. So I could be a gymnast, and that would be so cool. And now I watch gymnasts and I'm like, that is really cool. It would be cool to be a gymnast, but it's never going to be me. Right? It's I'm never going to be that. So because I realize that now I know, kind of a little bit of insight as to, like, when you're getting older, you're elderly, there's fewer activities that you can do, but karate is something that can be adapted to you. But then, so those are the positive motivations. You, of course, you want to be able to make it accessible to people with disabilities. You want to be able to provide that service for parents and kids, and also for elderly people, give them something that they can do. Um, the negative thing is like, hey, if eh, I shouldn't say negative, all right? So if you're running a martial arts school, you're going to have to make some money doing it. Otherwise, your martial arts school isn't going to work out, and then your students are not going to have a place to train. They're not going to be able to continue their learning in that, and so it really would be hurtful, I think, to students to have their dojo close. And so I do believe in, if you've learned this skill, if you're teaching something legitimate, if you're really trying to make a difference in people's lives, then you should get some money for it. You should be able to make a living where you can get by and also keep your dojo open. Um, but that probably shouldn't be your primary reason for like opening it up to everybody, but it is a reason, right? So the pragmatic, I should say it's pragmatic, not bad. But the pragmatic reason is like, hey, if I let kids train, if I have elderly people training, if I have disabled people training, I can have like everybody training, and I can get the maximum amount of income possible for all this teaching. So karate became a business to a lot of people. And when it becomes a business and you're teaching people of all abilities, sometimes it does not, the end product, the what the student is actually learning, it doesn't look like Krav Maga. It doesn't look like military combatives, because what you have is kind of something that is pretty watered down. Um, but I think the best way to teach the real thing, teach the real stuff, and then let help people adapt it to what they can do. Different, yeah, yeah. That's the difference in the military. You have to be aggressive and violent. Also, you have to be physically competent, right? Like, you probably do have some people who are not in the best shape, but fitness is kind of part of the military. There's requirements, there's standards. So when you have a bunch of fit people who are mostly in the prime, in their physical primes, the martial arts is going to look different than when you have people who are out of shape, who are not in their physical prime. All right. Um, I think I'm not going to get to my the katas I was going to do this morning, um, just because I spent a long time talking. But I think this is useful, so I probably will go ahead and leave this up for people to review and stuff later. It's just kind of random thoughts. The thing is, you guys had such good things in the comments. If you're kind of interested in what we're doing, you can check out some other videos here on on my YouTube channel. But yeah, thank you for the good blah, blah. See, I've been talking way too much now. Thank you for the good discussion and stimulating conversation. And till next time, feel free to check out the channel. Take care and have a great day.